Today, I'm going to walk you through a simple blueprint for getting clients for a brand new offer, even if you have no expertise, no proof, and no audience. I know gurus say that it's easy to make money as a writer, but I know for a fact 90% of people never actually manage to turn their ideas into income. Usually the advice is, become a ghostwriter or pitch more people. But what if you don't want to write for other people? And what if you don't have confidence in your offer? And what if you have no audience? Well, the advice I'm about to give you will work regardless of your situation. I've used it to launch several offers now. I've helped clients in a range of niches at different levels of expertise with it too. So if you haven't got your first client, or you have clients and you want to launch a new offer without it flopping, you'll love the next 15 minutes or so. So grab a cup of tea and let's dive in. So the first point is the most important. You've got to avoid this costly mistake, which is the cabin in the wood cock up. And what is that? I'll explain. Last month, I crossed my 5th year as a writer, and I went into my Google Drive looking for my first blog post. I thought it would be a really good marketing thing to say, look how far I've come. But I couldn't find anything that I had written from July all the way to October. And I was like, what the hell? What's gone on here? And then it all came flooding back. And I found this ebook that I had written called Get in Dentistry. It was a 78-page guide showing students how to get into dental school. Probably for the best that I didn't actually get that, or else I'd run a very different business. But I remember being super excited as I wrote it, and then filled with dread when I'd finished it, because I had no customers, I had no validation, I had no one that I could pitch it to. Now, what I did right was that I worked on a problem that I had already solved, but what I did wrong was everything else. The cabin in the wood cock up is disappearing for 3 months to build something that nobody wants. And so the most important thing that we have to do when we're creating offers is to validate before we create. In engineering, there's a concept called a fail-safe. And what that does is it stops you like hitting a catastrophic failure long before you get there. And we have a similar thing in business. The last thing you want to do is disappear for a big chunk of time only to realize you wasted all that time, because there's a graveyard of entrepreneurs who have fallen victim to poor execution. And so that leads us to the first step of finding clients, and that's to search for pain. 97% of offers fail because they don't solve the right problem. And you might be wondering, where's Kieran got that 97% from? Well, I pulled it out my ass, but if you actually pick the right problem, this isn't going to be your problem. So don't worry about that side of things. And maybe it's the dentist in me, but I am bullish about really taking the time to diagnose the right problem before we dive in, because you don't want to waste months kind of treating the wrong patient. It can always go wrong. Same is true when we're building our offers. And so the first thing that you want to do before you create anything is speak to people. Now, I know a lot of us have kind of this aversion to that, particularly if you're introverted, but everything is downstream from people, okay? The conversations that you have turn into the content, turn into the offers. And so what you want to do is go and speak to as many people as you can to find out what they're actually struggling with. So, I mean, who could we speak to? The first one is your network, right? So this is where you talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues, all those old people on the Facebook page. And this is probably the most uncomfortable part. Like, everyone's like, oh God, I don't want to talk about something that I'm up to. But a key part of entrepreneurship, particularly early on, you got to be comfortable with rejection, right? You can't let shame hold you back. And so consider this like a process of just putting yourself out there and building confidence around what you're up to online. If you have an audience, fantastic. You want to message your fans. Your fans are people that have bought most of your stuff and they're engaging a lot in your content. Send them a direct message. It goes so much further than sending a blanket email. But if you do have customers and email list as well, you want to email them too. And I'll give an example of what to say in a moment. You should also speak to your wider audience. So this should just be a rule of thumb in general, but you want to message every single person that follows you, every single person that engages in your content too. The reason being that most people, particularly bigger brands like me, we don't have the time to do this work. But if you put the effort in and spark conversations all of the time, it's a very easy way to take someone from a follower to a fan. And I mentioned if you have no audience at all, that's okay too, okay? There are still thousands of people out there, and you don't have to wait 2 years of creating content and then be like, hey, I get to build an offer. So for example, my first product, I only had a smaller audience. And so all I did was I got my 5 main competitors and I read all of their social media content. And every time they asked their audience a question like, hey, what are you struggling with? I was like, cool, I'll just write down all those answers. And I ended up building a solution which was for writer's block. You can also go onto forums like Reddit or just wherever your one true fan is gathering and just start trying to spark conversations. The key to sparking conversations is saying the right thing. It's not, hey bro, you want to go on a call? Because that's such a big ask, right? You don't try to get laid on the first date. You really got to get a small micro commitment, and that's about getting a short and snappy response. So you might send a message like this: hey name, how's it going? I'm putting together a program to help introverts with dating, obviously because I'm very good at that. I really want to build something useful, so I'm doing a little bit of research. I'm not sure if this is something that you might be interested in, but if it was, is there one thing that you would love to hear about? It'd be great to hear from you, even if you could just one sentence. It's going to help a ton. P.S. if this isn't something that you're interested in, but you know someone that might, I would love an intro. And that little PS bit is quite good, particularly when you're reaching out to friends and family, because, it's a lot less pressure. They could say, okay, I go talk to them, or they might just go, actually, yeah, I would like to learn about that. You're going to adapt that message depending on who you're speaking to, but that's the general rule of thumb. We just want to get a reply to show what people are thinking about. Then you continue the conversation. And when you're continuing the conversation, I don't want to go into the weeds of this, but 2 things you've got to do, right? Number 1 is show that you can relate to their struggle. And number 2 is to let them go deeper by asking open-ended questions. So if someone did reply and they were like, look, I've read every book, I know all the tips, and yet I still can't approach a woman in public, you could be like, yeah, man, I get that too. I learned all the fancy lines, I read the game, I've learned all the tactics. Yeah, every time it actually came to the approach, I was still freezing. And I've worked out a couple of solutions there, but it really depends on why you get stuck. So can I ask you in particular, what is it that makes it difficult? What's on your mind? And these how and what questions, by the way, instead of whys, that's how you get people to open up. Now, the next part of speaking to people is hopping on calls. And again, I know that's kind of like, oh God, what are we doing? But you will learn so much more from someone just by speaking to them. And so when you get people replying, and by the way, I would send about 250 DMs at a minimum, you're going to get certain people that respond. And if they fit your one true fan profile, i.e. the person that you want to serve, then you offer a call. But again, to get a good response here is that you need to frame it as a benefit to them. So it's not, this is all about me and my call. It's like, look, I would really love to help you out. And so I was wondering if you wanted to hop on a free call. I'm giving away 10 free consulting calls over the next 2 weeks, and I think it'd be a great match. This isn't a sales pitch. There's nothing coming at the end because I hate that crap. Really, I would just love to hear about your problems, and if I can give you some tips on the call, then fantastic. You see how that's a lot less of an ask? And of course, there will actually be a little bit of a sales pitch at the end, but very, very subtle, and not kind of saying I've got something for you, but it's like, by the way, I might be building something in a little while, and I'll let you know if it's coming. And that leads me to an important point. People want to skip this conversation part, right? You want to rush in, you want to build, but it is the foundation. It's like laying the groundwork for the actual offer itself, because what you're going to do is you're going to look through the problems and build a unique solution, and then guess who you're going to pitch it to? Every single person that you spoke to before. So that's your first step. Disappear. I usually say do this in a 2-week sprint and just go for it. Speak to as many people as you can and begin gathering all of the information, all of the words that they use. This becomes content gold, but it's also sales material gold too, because the words that people use are the words that you can reflect back to them. And by the way, when you hop on these calls, again, the secret here is to listen. Right. I used to think that when people were paying for my consulting calls, I had to just give as much advice as possible. So I talk and I talk and I talk, and sure, they were pretty useful, but then I decided, actually, let's just ask more questions. I remember hearing a story about Benjamin Disraeli, and a woman had met with a statesperson, and she was like, oh, when I met him, he sounded like the cleverest person in the world. But when I met Benjamin Disraeli, who was one of our UK prime ministers, he made me feel like the smartest person in the world. And that's what you want to do when you're doing research, but also just with your customers in general. You want to listen for 80% of the time, and then for the final 20%, you give advice based on their insights. And the cool bit with asking loads of questions is that people start to think that they came up with the solution. And that's really powerful. And trust me, it's only going to make people want to work with you more. And when you go on these calls, you want to record it with Fathom. I use Fathom Video for this. Just tell people, it's like, hey, look, we have a recorder on this, just so I can send it over to you. You don't need to take notes, and you're going to get a summary at the end. And then just a neat little trick, make sure your calendar looks busy. All right. So no one likes to go on Calendly and it's like, man, this guy's free 9 to 5, 6 days a week. He ain't got shit going on, right? You book out a couple of days, you book out 30-minute slots, but always reserve an extra half an hour after. And when you get towards the 30-minute mark, you're just like, look, I'm loving chatting and I know I'm taking up your time here, but have you got an extra 15 minutes and we can keep going? Every time someone will say yes, The call feels super high value. Again, we're building up this sort of desire to work with you some more. So after you've done the DMs and the calls, you're just going to have a wealth of information and data, which, by the way, would sort out all of your content problems too. What we need to do now is pick the right problem. And I have a 4E diagnosis method for this. The first one is that we want the problem to be early in the journey. So one of the mistakes that people make is that they build an offer super late into someone's journey. And that means that the scope, the amount of people that you can help is super narrow. Now, of course, that's going to be quite useful in the future, but initially we want to aim for an early journey so there's more people there, but also for your business in general, once you solve that early problem, guess who they're going to want to work with to solve the later ones? I always say it's like, because you're a guide and they're the heroes, or they're Frodo, you're Gandalf. You want to be chilling in the Shire solving problems, not waiting in Mordor where there's only 2 hobbits left. The second point is it an emergency? You might have heard this marketing thing, like people don't buy vitamins, they buy painkillers. I want you to go one step further, okay? You need to find a bleeding neck problem, because nobody wants a painkiller when they're gushing out of their neck. Now, often this is a little bit about framing too. So for example, let's say you are trying to sell LinkedIn profile optimization. Like, my God, how boring does that sound? Alternatively, if you had the exact same offer, but you were like, I will show you how to turn your LinkedIn into a client magnet so that you don't have to rely on cold outreach anymore. Suddenly, I'm gushing and I want to work with you with your miracle bandage solution. Next, we have expertise. Now, this is a crucial point. You do not need to be an expert to have something worth selling. Okay, you need energy and empathy in a problem worth solving. So 2 steps ahead, say you know more than 98% of people, which isn't actually that hard because most people know nothing, then you're all cool. And the final point is probably the most important and overlooked as entrepreneurs: enjoyment. Do you actually want to solve this problem? So if I paused at the start of my get in dentistry journey, I've been like, hell no, I don't want to talk about helping students get into dental school. But all I did was think, okay, that's the only thing that I can do. It's actually better to take a bit of time to go learn skills and solve a problem you're passionate about and take that to the market than keep following your path, like going down a path that you never enjoyed. Reason being, we're going to die someday. You might as well build a business you love while you're going along. So look through the data. I just like to chuck it all into AI and be like, hey, look, this is all the conversations I've had. What are the 5 bleeding neck problems that we can identify that we could solve? Let's say for our dating example, actually getting people to say yes to a first date is the biggest problem. And so the next step of this process is that we want to create a transformational offer plan. Plan is the most important word here. Again, don't go gallivanting off into the woods to create this perfect offer, because the perfect offer does not exist on paper. It is built with people. So when we think about a transformational offer plan, I like to draw it out, right? So you can imagine we have our one true fan here at point A. Point A is hell, right? It's defined by the problems that they're having, the stuff that they're not really that happy about, what they're seeing, thinking, and feeling. Point B is heaven. Heaven is when they have everything they want as related to your offer. And that's where they have all these lovely benefits, hot women fighting all over them. I wish. When you know hell and heaven, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is think about what are the obstacles in the way. That's the conflict. And if we take that guide analogy, okay, every story is about a hero overcoming conflict to become the person they want to be. What you need to ask is, what does my one true fan need to know or do to get to the result they want? And so if you actually plot out the obstacles that are in the way, which are often external, stuff like I don't have these resources, and internal around confidence and belief, you can then build solutions for each step. And you just have to ask, how can I make this easier and faster at each point, right? Because the easier and faster you can make it for someone, the more they're going to want to work with you to achieve that result. And the key here when you're building a transformational offer plan is to make it unique. So in copywriting, they have this term called a unique mechanism, and we use these in saturated markets, which pretty much all the markets are online. And so if I just say, hey, look, this is going to get you your first 5 dates, it's like, okay, I've heard it all before. But if we were to have something like the first 5 day annihilator, I don't know, it's a terrible example, but you give it a fancy name and then you show kind of why it's a bit different to the crowd. Maybe it'll be like, hey, you've been told that you need to do this peacocking shit. We don't do that at all. We're focusing on like values, being a high value man, etc. It's going to appeal 10 times more to someone who has already heard all of these offers before. And the key is understanding when you're creating this pitch that it has to be persuasive. So I actually have a 5-part seductive kind of framework that helps you frame your hooks, your offers, etc. And here's how it works, right? It's what do people want? We want 5 things. Number 1 is status. So status is the thing we have attached to that result, okay? So how is it going to improve my life? Number 2 is speed. How fast can you get it for me? Number 3 is simplicity. How easy will that thing be? Number 4 is surety. How can you guarantee to me this thing is actually going to happen? And then number 5 is steal, right? As in, people love a bargain. That doesn't necessarily mean that you want to be cheap, but you want to have a really high value to price discrepancy, okay? It's like, hey, you're going to give me the money here, and as a result, you're going to get X, Y, Z. Now, quite often online, you just get told that you have to sell how to make money, but you just need to think about the framing. So if we take our dating example, what is the pain of not achieving this outcome? Like, oh, you're never going to meet the girl you love if you can't approach girls that you find attractive. Like, so you want to pay me $500 and I'm going to help you do that for the rest of your life? It becomes a bit of a no-brainer when you're thinking that way. And as a reminder, super important, this is just a plan. So write it down, think about how you're going to take your one true fan from point A to point B, and then next you're going to go pitch to people. So who are we going to pitch to? As I mentioned, you're going to go through everybody that you have just spoken to, even the no's, and say, just coming back to them and be like, hey, look, I finished my research. I'm really confident I can build something great. And so I'm going to put together a program to help one true fan achieve outcome through my process. And I was wondering if you might be interested in doing it. The key, again, you're not just saying like, hey, it's my first time doing it, so it's going to be super cheap because it might be a bit shit. It's like, look, I want to work really closely with motivated people. And because this is the first time I'll be running this live, that means I'm going to be giving you tons of support. And so I'm only looking for people that are willing to put in the work and that are able to give me feedback as we go along, as you achieve the desired result. And that framing makes it sound like, oh, this is actually a really cool opportunity. And a great way to build urgency and actually get people to say yes here is that you mention the fact that you're reaching out to them first before you go on to the next level. So I call it the pyramid of potential clients. For example, we've got the 10 people we hopped on a call with. We say, look, I'm reaching out to you first, but by the way, I want to kickstart this thing in 2 weeks. So I'm actually going to reach out to my email list, which has, 500 readers. I'm going to do that in a couple of days. So if you're interested, let's hop on a quick call and we'll chat about the details. The reason you want to do a call, by the way, everyone's like, oh, I just want to get a sales page so I don't have to do this stuff. Okay, but you need to learn how to sell your product before you write copy. So getting on a call, it's a lot less hard than writing a sales page, trust me. But also all you have to do is listen, present the product, and hear about the objections and see if they fancy it. Now, one of the main objections at the start is that it's a brand new offer. That means that the skepticism is going to be super high. And what do we do about skepticism? Well, number 1 is proof, right? So if you do have proof, you want to show results that you've generated for other people. If you don't have proof for other people, you've got to talk about the results you've generated for yourself. A good story is good proof. And if you don't have much of that either, you generally would have at least your own story, then you've got to play around with the pricing guarantee. So for example, my first high ticket client, I charged $500 for 10 hours of calls plus unlimited writing critiques. I genuinely could have made more money flipping burgers at McDonald's, but I didn't care because I was after momentum, right? And I made a pact. I was like, I'm going to make this the best $500 this guy has ever spent. And 3 years later, he went from corporate sales to traveling the world, building a multi-6-figure business, smoking hot Colombian fiance, all because of the work we did then, right? And I turned his proof into over $1 million now because I took his win and I went and found more clients, and I kept doing this cycle, which we'll talk about in a bit. So my point there is start cheap, all right? People say charge what you're worth, but it's hard to charge what you're worth when you think you're worth nothing, right? So you can reduce the price. I even advise people to start for free. So for example, one client, we did the outreach initially and we pitched everywhere. He didn't actually get any responses, and we were like, well, you just don't have the proof, right? He was very skilled, but couldn't back it up. So I said, go find 3 free clients, nail it for them, get those testimonials, use those testimonials as the foundation to begin increasing your prices. The other side is the guarantee. So you could say, look, if this doesn't work, you'll give your money back, but you want to be very careful with how you word that too. Again, you don't want to be like, this might not work, so it's going to be a waste of your time. You want to say something along the lines of, I am 100% sure that you're going to be nailing those first 5 dates. Probably not the best wording for it. Nailing getting those first 5 dates. But if for any strange reason you decide this program isn't perfect for you and you don't think my advice is the best that you've ever heard, don't worry about it. I'll give your money back. Don't give money money back guarantees if you've already got a lot of reputation. Okay, so if you've got a bigger audience, it kind of puts people off, right? You want to say, look, I guarantee this work. All right, I'm going to work hard with you, but you've got to put in the work. And that's all you really need. So we're going to pitch down that pyramid of potential clients. Hopefully you're going to get a yes in there, maybe a couple. And the really cool bit is once you get down to the bottom of the pyramid and you've got a couple yeses, you're going to go back up to the top and be like, hey, I got a couple people here. We've got one more space in this, the first 3 people that I'm taking on. If you get no yeses, fantastic. There's your fail safe, right? You've built something that nobody wants. And so you can go and actually ask everyone, hey, like I mentioned this offer to you, you didn't want it. I would just love to hear why. When we begin to gather data, like was it your framing? Was it your pitching? Was it just something that they weren't really that interested in? If we do get a yes, but not too many, perfect, okay? Because what we're going to do is over deliver for whoever said yes and turn everything you do into high authority content to generate desire for the future round. Now on that note, the content is the key part of this, because think about it. If someone sends you a DM to sell something, what's the first thing that you do? You check their profile, right? And it happens to me all the time. Someone will like promise me that they're going to make me an extra $100,000. I look at their profile and they've got like a picture of them at a Liverpool football stadium and they're talking about their dog. And I'm like, I don't really believe you, right? You want your profile to represent your business. You've got to be able to create great content. So that's why I created an 8-part copywriting framework called the Sucks Framework. And I've got an ebook in the link down below. You can download it. It takes 5 minutes to read. It'll make your content 50 times better. Let's carry on. So at this point, we have several clients, hopefully 3 clients, free or paid. It's your first iteration of the offer. You haven't built anything. They've said yes. So what happens next? Number 1 is you're going to build it live with them. Okay. So the temptation then is to go, by the way, so like you could be done for you, i.e. I'm going to do everything for you, or it could be done with you. We're going to do it together. Regardless, you're going to take it week by week, because if you just say I'm going to build the full 10-week program or however long you decided, it's going to change so much over time based on the questions and feedback you're getting. And so what I do, and it's an intense period, is I would build the material during the week. Let's say I deliver it on a Monday, I get feedback by Wednesday, by Thursday, and during that week, I would then write the next week's after. Every question that you get asked is absolute gold, but when you're asking for feedback, you also want to ask, what did you enjoy? Because that's the positive stuff that we can then use to begin to attract more people. And that's all you're actually going to be doing over the next, say, 2 to 3 months. You're over delivering for the clients that you have. And whilst you're doing that, every single thing that you write on your social media profile is about the work you're doing with clients. Every problem that they come up to you with is a problem that other clients would be struggling with. Every question they ask is a question on 100 people's minds. And every solution that you build is a solution that an audience would like to see. This is a really cool way to turn conversations into clients. Okay, so that's all you're focusing on, is just writing about the client work that you're doing and over delivering for your clients. The reason we want to over deliver is because one good case study can change the trajectory of your business, right? And if you get a collection of 10, 20 testimonials, and it's like gasoline on the fire. Now, once you've worked with those first 3 clients, we want to be relaunching this offer as the second iteration. And this is where we begin to play with this kind of like a proof, price, persuasion flywheel, where the more proof you gather, the higher your price is, the more persuasive the thing becomes. And you can reach out again to all the new people, all the old people that you spoke to, but all the new people that seem to be interested in your content, and be like, hey, I'm going for round 2 of my 5-day annihilator, which, again, terrible name. I know you've been engaging in this stuff, and I'm wondering if you might want to hear some details about it. I'm only taking on another 2 clients at this next price point, and the price will be going up as we get more and more results for people. And so we're building up that desire by just kind of slowly and steadily increasing it up. And I think that once you have 5 paying clients, we can really stop, take a breather, and begin to build smart, because you have a validated offer. People want it. You've got tons of content ideas, and you have a kind of a process laid out, because as you're delivering this, you just want to write down everything that you're doing. Everything you do more than once, you want to make it easy to do again. So you create SOPs for everything. And we think, okay, let's start to get back our freedom. And the way that we're going to do this, number 1, is that we want to get off social media, and we want to move away from having to send so many DMs about the offer that we're building. So how do we do this? Super simple. You need to create an authority asset. So this is a free resource that represents you, your brand, like the way you do things. And the simplest way to do this is to pick an early problem that you solve for your one true fan in your new offer and turn it into an ebook or a checklist or whatever. And that becomes your lead magnet. A lead magnet is something that you give in exchange for an email. And so at the bottom of your social media post now, instead of being like, hey, I'm doing this, reach out and let's have a chat, it's, hey, I've built this thing for you, call them out. So if X and Y, if you're struggling to get dates, I have built this thing for you. If you are an introverted writer who can't get a date, then blah, 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 blah. And the really cool bit about that is that every single person that gives you their email is classified as problem aware, i.e. they're interested in the transformation promise that you're making. So your emails, all you have to do is keep talking about their problems with stories to show that you understand them and making polarizing, persuasive points. Then at the bottom of those emails, again, we can invite conversation, okay? Or we can start to build up a wait list and be like, hey, like my next round of XYZ is coming in a few months time or in a few weeks time. Click here to register your interest. I like the waitlist approach, particularly as you get more volume, because when someone clicks, what you want to do is automate an email to them being like, thank you so much for your interest. I'm busy doing XYZ, but I'd love to nail this for you. So if you could just leave some details in this questionnaire, and then you'll have, what are you struggling with? What would it be like if you'd solved this problem? And so you're actually automating all of your marketing information, right? So it starts to get pretty cool. The reason we've been doing the email side is that you can really begin to control the launch. Like, let's say you get 50 to 100 people on your list, which by the way is actually quite a lot. It's not like social media. One subscriber is worth 1,000 followers, particularly if you've gathered them using kind of a problem aware lead magnet. You can then send a 3 to 5 day email blast and be like, next round is open. Here's the benefits of joining this offer. Here's the reason why. So remember, urgency, exclusivity, scarcity, and what's going to happen if you don't get this now. And so there you are able to say, let's take on another 5 clients. Again, I would probably just stick to one-on-one now until we've done 10 people. Once you've done that, the reason being, the more people you take on, the harder it is to deliver a result for that person. The more time you spend one-on-one, the more focus you have, the more you understand your audience, and the better that offer becomes. At this point, we can move up the ladder of leverage with this offer. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're doing a done for you service, you really got to start thinking, I can't be doing everything here. Let's go hire other people to do bits, like the bit that that's not my kind of absolute expertise. So for example, if I have a writing coaching offer where I help you build your writing business, which I do, I will have someone actually critiquing social media content because it's not really the most important work for me. If you're doing a done with you service, which is the coaching side of things, you can take that same offer. Remember, it's already all built and you can turn it into a group coaching offer, right? And so now we can take on 5 people at once, but you only have that 1 call per week, for example. You're able to deliver the information at a faster scale, and you're going to get more feedback from 5 different sources. You can also run a cohort. So a cohort, we're kind of increasing the scale of things. Let's say you take on, it can just be 10 people, which is a lot more high touch, or you could go for like 50 to 100. I always prefer you to start small because again, the more you understand the person you're serving, the better the eventual highest leverage solution will be. And the highest leverage solution, particularly for done with you, is a digital product. So a digital product is fantastic because you can build it once and sell it many times. But the mistake people make when they create these products, like good old Kieran Drew with his Getting Dentistry guide, is they didn't do the validate before you create at every single step. Because you have, this product will have a series of sick case studies, great testimonials, proof that it works, and it will actually work for people, right? So I'm sure you've taken a digital product where you're like, what the hell, man? Within the first 20 minutes, I'm lost here. Little news flashes because the creator never actually tested the information with his audience. They just built it and thought, I'll just sell it, right? But you're here to get people actual results. And once we've done that, once you've got like a higher leverage solution, you have everything you need to build a business from 6 to 7 figures. I mean, you could just get to 6 figures just by doing the one-to-one offer. And I'd probably advise if you could focus like that, it's going to go really well. But I personally, I like to have my reach, relationships, and revenue. So reach is social media, relationships is email, and then revenue, we want to have a high leverage solution, i.e. a digital product on the front end, something that you can sell at scale in between your launches for the high ticket, which is super exclusive. To put that numerically, we might say, look, 90% of my customers might buy my $150 dating guide product, 7% might join my $2,000 8-week cohort where we do it all together, and 3% might buy my $5,000 one-on-one support as I hopefully try to get you laid. The whole point is that you've actually turned one problem into a full business, and then all you have to do now is keep writing. Keep writing on social, keep writing on email, keep launching your offer, keep relaunching things as the proof comes in. And that way you get everything that you didn't have at the start of this video. You've got the expertise, you've got the proof, and you have a high value audience. And that, my friend, is where things get really good. Enjoy and good luck.